So the next topic, what we'll have today regarding the cybersecurity is how our Latvian financial market looks like. I will be more focusing on some insights from the supervision part. Of course, I will not be able to show all the most insights, but just showing you the trends, what we see, and what kind of trends we see in banking and non-banking sector. So of course, I think that some of my also conclusions are correlated with Arthur's speech, but we see that really this year was very rich in DDoS attacks that has been done very especially on the governmental sectors and also for the financial sectors. And you, as a customers of kind of open services, you maybe already felt it. We see that increase the number of breaches regarding the data. We see that the increase in ransom attack still are continued, and also this is very connected to popularity of cryptocurrencies, crypto assets, and until this market is not regulated, in the most recent years it will be regulated, but now we see that it could be also continued as a trend. Of course, the emails that is pitching emails, I think that it is very hottest topic, not only in Latvia, but is also in Europe. And the customers of banking and non-banking or fintech companies, time to time are receiving different types of pitching messages, like something with your account has been compromised, or you had some failed transactions or fraud transactions. And there are a lot of other tools how to identify it. But however, we see that this trend is still increasing this year. And of course, phone calls of fraudsters that probably majority of you also received, and the population continuing to receive it. So what we wanted to say with that those vectors of attacks are very different, and they're coming with a different type of complexity and different types of tooling using. I cannot escape this slide because it is very important, and we see that when the geopolitical situation has been changed, when the war started in Ukraine, this has been felt by the Latvian cyberspace, especially in. We've got the most intense attacks on the governmental institutions after the 8th of May, after the demolishment of the monuments, and of course some of Latvian governmental institutions also have been under attack. We will be. Next slide, I will show also maybe some groups of activists that are related to this industry, and they're working on that. But Keynote is one of the activist group from Russia that are established even before the war, that are actually taking the responsibility on everything that is happening in Europe when they was compromised not only the financial sectors across the countries, but also it was compromised the health sectors, for example, in Poland, in Germany, in other countries across Europe have been under attack. And those impact also could have an I would say that the impact on the financial services, on the payment systems, on some breaches in that also had some impact on that. If we were talking regarding who are those attackers, what we see from our side, of course, there are some of them state-sponsored. It's quite logical that are involvement in the supply chain. Some of them are doing it for money. There are also some kind of criminals who are doing it due to old own interests, and of course the other activists that just follow the social development, geopolitical developments, and they are reacting on their side. And all those four groups are bringing different types of attacks, different types of institutions. However, the message or targets are the same. Of course, the digitalization of the financial sectors also brings some kind of new path into cybersecurity because the new technologies are developing. There are kind of new services that appears on the market, and we see that banking, insurance sector, fintechs, other non-banking companies like payment institutions, electronic money institutions, they're starting to use more and more services from outsourcing companies. And due to that reason and facts, so we see that there are different new types of the risk have been appeared, and some of the companies manage them in quite well level, and some other companies still have a huge room for improvement. Of course, if we look into the banking sector, we see that banking are very actively working with the digital onboarding. Employees in banking are trained, and they have a lot of trainings on a regular basis, and IT specialists are here and care and ensure that banking system are non-compromising, and they are already under our supervision during several years. There are a special governmental acts that they are able to follow and adapt. However, we see that out of the banking sector that related to the non-banking, there is still a huge room, and that is also being our focus for next year. So another trend that yes, we all see that APIs are quite frequently used due to open banking developments, new services appearing, new business models are developed, and everything that bringing some kind of risk. The question is how far those risk assessment and how perfect and how well this risk assessment is done, or are all those risks are involved? Are the companies have in a place human resource in an enough level in order to follow this risk, in order to control those risks? If we will look to who are those top leaders and what are the top technologies currently on the market, that of course the cloud services and API will be on the first place. And actually this figure have been doubled if we look to the cloud services. If we compare it with the previous year, the more and more market participants are using that, and it creates some kind of new risk in this path, new risk in a service, new risk in the supply chain. And of course, if we look to who are those top leaders of innovations, we see that banking and insurance sectors are on the first place, even insurance brokers. So why it's important actually is this a type of category. The companies are very, very closely to the customer data and sensitive data and working with the sensitive data, same time as the banking. However, we need also to follow. So what are those innovative product or innovative business processes developed, how professionally they are developed from the security side. So we are following how those innovations are developing in a time, and also as those institutions are under our supervision, we have a view on it. So how well the functions are established. If we're looking to the regulation of the information technology and information technology security, there are 4 pillars that is based where we are basing in our job. We have ICT regulation, we have EBA guidelines. EBA is the European Banking Authority, guidelines on the outsourcing arrangements, risk management, and of course, if you have been familiar to see, the last year we have adopted new law that Latvia regarding the critical financial services. So the critical financial services means that if companies are treated and the thresholds apply to them, they have to ensure that in situation when you are under attack or whatever, or you have under geopolitical pressure or in a different conditions and a different scenarios, you have to ensure those financial services that it should work at least on 80% and should be available for the customers. And I cannot mention one more issue that is coming to the next year. And next year we're waiting for new regulation, common European, as it is DORA, digital act on resilience, and this will unify all the requirements across the European countries in the financial sectors. So if previously I would say that the majority of those acts or frameworks have been related to the banking sector, now it is a little bit related to all the participants in all the financial sectors. So there will be 1 year as a transition period, and you will be able to see, to learn and adapt those requirements and to see what is exactly will be applicable to the companies. For some fintech companies, it will be something new. However, I can say that if we will compare the regulation DORA with the existing one, the DORA is much more complicated and it will go deeply, and the requirements will be much more higher. For the supervision focuses, where we were focusing in the financial sectors, of course, the ITC security risk as such as a function, how it is established, are all the testing, system vulnerability, security management, and established in the right path. Data risks and data aggregation capabilities, how companies are working with the data, and do they have any kind of data breach risk, and how they make these risk assignments. And of course, outsourcing risk that I already mentioned is one of the focusing. That is one of the highest risks that European community, banking community, and European banking associations see, and this is one of the, I would say, vector with the majority of the intention from the different kind of supervision and regulatory institutions are applicable for new companies and existing companies in the financial sector. As a regulator, we are performing the audits of information systems of our companies that are under our supervision. There are like 4 different types of activities we are doing. We're doing a lot of on-site inspections. We're doing horizontal inspections, off-site inspections. We're very focusing and looking into the different types of the areas, like for example, we can be focused only on outsourcing, on focusing with the information security system, on focusing on the data breaches. And during the year, we are going to the majority of the companies to see how this function is established. So if you are under supervision, if some of you are, you probably have received a lot of documentations, questionnaires from us and requests for the additional risk assessments. And of course, the incident statistic and incident on payment services, it is one of the, I would say, critical one. Of course, it doesn't mean that there's all the types of it. There are different types of the incidents that we see in the following the financial sectors. And maybe I will go to the incidents right now, and we'll come back more. So if we look into the incidents, so this structure of the incident also have been changed. If 2 years ago we saw that incidents that are related to external cyber attacks were like a 4%, now we see that there are like 10% or even 12, closer to the 20%. Still, human error is on the top. Still, process and system failure on the top. But what has been changed during 1 year? It was very huge increase and changes between the system failure and external events related to the outsourcing. So if the outsourcing previously was like 25-28%, so now we see that it is more than 30%. And it was the largest increase into the incidents. Of course, there are bankings, they do have a lot of procedures and internal regulations how the incidents are treated. However, we see that in the non-banking sector, this function should be improved. If we're talking about the losses, there are no losses in the banking register during last 4 years. No one have been under attack to pay losses or something like that, or it wasn't been like a problems for the banking. But still, some significant incidents are during the are related to internal changes and internal system changes. What is interesting regarding the IT sectors and IT security function as such, where we are paying attention, and what are those questions to remind, and what are the questions for you just to think about more, how the function is established as such. Roles, responsibilities, are those splitted, are those established? Because what we see, not all the companies may afford internal ICT specialists who will be responsible in the security area. And in some cases, there are no specialists at all, especially in non-banking sector. And we see that there's a like a mess that should be improved. The policies and procedures, of course, everything that is in paper should also be in a business process. It should be implemented. It should not be like a procedure. It is not like a formal act that stays somewhere on the shelf. It should be in a working environment. A competence level is very, very different, and it is something to improve. We also see that it is not so easy to attract related staff. However, the competence level should be correlated and implemented not only in these functions, but only all organization. If you will not have on your board in a company someone who is here on this issue, or someone who is thinking that it is a risk number one, because actually in the majority situation it could be the major risk for the business activities, and most probably those levels of defense will not be working. So the competence level should be increased for all employees, experts who are working in this specific area, and also in non-IT sector. The penetration test and vulnerability scans, I would say that it is a very important one, and when the new DORA regulation will come, you will see that it will be for some companies it is already easy mandatory that I have to do and have to perform. But when the DORA will be able, the DORA will I would say underline that it will be much more higher requirements or how those tests should be improved, and how the tests should be done, how oftenly, and what are the focuses, and how those focuses programs should be developed. Incident reporting is also one of the topic we are paying attention to. Are those incident reporting is working? Do you have the incident registers? What you do? Do you have a lessons learned, risk assessment on that? How after this incident has been done? So if you have like system, some changes in the system, or it was a human error, or what was the cases, how we are working with these incidents. And of course, the business continuity plans. So it is also not like a paper that should be stated somewhere in a shelf. It should be real business process. So it means that you will have interruptions. You have to think how you will be able to operate and continue business activities. That is important for your customers, because the customers who are paying money, if you do not have improve your services with business activities, with a continuity plan, so it means that your business is not sustainable and it's not stable. The question mark is, are you a company who can I trust? Because actually the cybersecurity and equity, there are two topics in the financial sectors what are leading. If you have enough equity, it doesn't mean you have a security in place. If we will look into the non-banking, I don't know, I want to show those segments because it's maybe for some of you will be surprised, for some of you it will be maybe lack of information, but however, we see that 50% of the companies out of the banking sectors, they have delegated this function of the cybersecurity to someone of the existing employees, and this employee is not always even someone who is responsible for ITC function in organization. And that is actually quite significant risk, and it is something that we see as a huge problem. 25% of the market participants, there is non-banking again, have outsourced this function. Outsourcing of IT security function is up to you to decide. It is your business decision, but it does not take the responsibility out of you. The responsibility of any kind of incident breaches is related any kind of in organization in any ways. And 25 of the small market participants have not appointed at all these functions. So that is actually a huge problem. And that is something that should be improved. And there are different kind of organizations have been participated in these questionnaires. We have a lot of data regarding this, but something that I can show publicly is on that side. Third-party providers and critical infrastructures. If we look to the banking sectors, we also know that not all the banking is providing the all card processing. The card processing in majority cases is outsourced, and we see that banking are also have a little bit increase the proportion of the critical functions that are also outsourced. It is, of course, always a business decision. So are you going to develop some IT developments and new processes in-house, or you are going for a partnership, but you have to be able to understand and those risks and be prepared and to evaluate again through the business continuity plans how those risks are assessed. If we will look to the overall Latvian infrastructure, we see that the majority of outsourcing providers, at least for the banking sector, they are in Latvia. And if you are seeking for someone, please do not consider third-party provider outside the European Union. So it will create some more additional problems, and in some cases this is also prohibited. In the non-banking sector, it's also the interesting situation when we see that I would say 35% of the companies fully outsource their businesses. So, of course, we are going through this like banking on service, card on service, something on service, blah, blah on service. And it's a growing trade when you can calculate the cost and there are reasonable business decisions why those functions are outsourced. But again, the question is how they are managed and how those risks are assessed. Those critical outsourcing services should be monitored well from the business. And of course, from the supervision side, we see that some market participants do not have like their own even ITC infrastructure. That creates some kind of problem, especially if you're working with a sensitive customer data. And in non-banking, of course, the outsourcing service as such is more widely used than in banking. We have already spoke about the incident and what are the supervision focuses for the next year. What we see, this will be applicable not only for banking but also for non-banking sector. It's of course the monitoring of the business continuity management. It will be on the top. The four vectors that were in our focus, of course, as you can guess already from my speech, will be third-party providers and outsourcing activities, data aggregation and incident management in non-banking. cybersecurity, insurance sectors, and evaluation analysis of business continuity. So this is something that you have to fill in the mind. It should be implemented on the management level, on senior management level. It should be also gone to the employees. If someone thinks that cybersecurity is something abstract that relies only on IT people, no, it's not the case. It should be provided on all the levels of the sense and organization, because it's something that creates your stability and defines the stability. And of course, DORA regulation. It's a new act that is coming. I hope that it will be fully approved in end of this year. Starting from the next year, the official text will be available for the public, and we will have about 1 year of transition period to review all your business activities, functions, and to see what exactly will be applicable to a company. The Act also will include the proportionality principle. It means that applies to you regarding your activity. Not all the 100% of the regulation will be applicable, but after that there will be also 1 year of additional technical standards that will be developed, and there will be more even detailed information on this side. The challenges that we see, that I think that you already felt that. Of course, the competence level of organization and maturity level of organization performing these functions should be increased, and we see that competence requires much more higher attention from a management side. We see that the organization shall have now limited resources for this function, but these resources should be increased. The ability to detect, attack, and to go through the threat intelligence, that is absolutely different topic, and we see that threat intelligence is quite weakly established in non-banking. And of course, so the DORA is something like a new era for cybersecurity in the financial sector. And let's see how we can help. So if you have any kind of questions, you can ask for the FCMC Innovation Hub. You can follow us, and you can ask for the consultation from our cybersecurity experts who are going to the supervision, and they are already familiar with the different kind of sectors, how these functions are established. Any questions regarding the DORA regulation, you can address us by the email that you see on the monitor. So with this, I would like to close the just insights into the financial sector. If you have some questions, please. If you don't, we can go directly to the discussion.